You can't change low libido unless you change the energetics and you change the function of your organs. And if you have an energetic center that's out of balance, the second chakra specifically, and your ovaries aren't working well, you've got low back pain, you're not having a regular cycle, like, of course, you're probably having a low libido, and wouldn't be any surprise if your partner was matching you with impotence or low libido. Hey, Dr. Brandy here. And one of my favorite things to do is to help women truly enjoy their bodies, to feel healthier, to turn back the aging clock from the inside out, to enhance their energy throughout the day, and to help them feel sexier no matter what age they're in. This is all accomplished through a process that we take together, but we begin with a personalized health assessment that identifies your toxicities and your deficiencies and the spiritual and emotional blocks that may be getting in your way of you living your own life on fire. And what I've found is that there's always room for optimizing your life, regardless if you're a career woman at the top of your game, a mom who has kids leaving the nest, or an athlete that feels that he's at peak performance. There is always room for optimization. And if you're interested in learning how to optimize your own life and would like to see if you're a good fit to work with me one-on-one, there are a few spots that I've opened up, and I wanted to make this available to my listeners of the Turn Your Soul On Radio community first. So if you'd like to apply, head on over to my website, drbrandyvictory.com/activate. That's ACTIVATE. drbrandyvictory.com/activate. And that's Brandy with a Y. And fill out the form. You'll be given an opportunity to connect with me, and we can have a deeper conversation to see if it's a good fit. So thank you so much for being a part of the Turn Your Soul On Radio community, and I look forward to the potential of going forward on your wellness journey with you. You are listening to Turn Your Soul On Radio. I am your host and visionary doctor, Dr. Brandy Victory, and my mission is to assist high-achieving women in closing the gap between feeling unfulfilled to living a life on fire. It is time, ladies, to champion our own lives and turn ourselves on. This is Living Victoriously, ladies. This is how you turn your soul on. Hey, chakra clearing queens. We are back for number 2. So we're going to be clearing out the sacral chakra, which is the chakra that lies just below your belly button, inside your body, like in your womb space. And we'll be talking a little bit about the good stuff of having that done and what you can expect if it's imbalanced and what you can do to balance it out. So before we get started, I just want to thank our sponsor, Purium Superfoods. That's Purium Superfoods. I love this company. They're so great. They sponsor the 10-day transformation program that I have the women going through right now, which is the foundation of why I'm even doing this chakra series with you. And they also have this wonderful product called BioFruit. You should check it out. It's got really potent organic fruits that are processed in such a way that it keeps the integrity of the nutrients in the food. So if you're not getting enough fruits in your diet, this is a great way to do it. It's a powder. You can just add it to your smoothies or just add it to some water and go for it. It's a nice little red juice drink to get your red nutrient profile into your body. And if you'd like to get a free jar of it, you should go on over to ishoppurium.com. That's ishoppurium.com, ISHOPPURIUM.com, and check out BioFruit and use my $50 gift card that I offer my listeners. And the gift card code is Dr. Brandy. That's DRBRANDY. And you will be heading yourself in the right direction to get the good nutrition you need in your body. All right. Let's clear out this second chakra. All right. So again, the second chakra is just below the navel. This is what's considered the dwelling place of self. And it's really, really, really important for us to be tuned into this part, because when we so many of us women, we live in our heart space and we're not in our pelvis. Like I'm always evaluating like where someone's at in their body. And this is one of those touchy little places that people don't necessarily like to go unless you're like an artist or a dancer or a yoga practitioner. You know, there's a tendency to pull up out of the pelvis. And so we live in the heart or we live in the head, but we're rarely in this part that's so, so important for creativity and passion and feeling confident and inspired and all those good things. So let's turn that piece of you on. All right. So the second chakra, like we were talking about yesterday, or the other day, all the chakras have an element, and the element of the second chakra is water. Now, no big surprise, right? Because here you are with your bladder right there. Water. This is also the seat of where your emotions are. So we have this is our emotional chakra, I should say. And emotions are related to the water element. So, you know, it's kind of cool how it all lines up, right? All right. So, the second chakra is also related to our sense of taste as well as reproduction and the way our bodies are functioning. So if you're having trouble conceiving, maybe there's a second chakra imbalance. Now there could be more to it than that. And I have seen so many people that get pregnant because they change the energetics of their body and they do nutrition and they clean up some lifestyle factors that are lingering. One of the big ones that is on my mind right now is the laptops, especially for men. Laptops on their laps and phones in the pockets. Like, ladies, do not do this. Do not put a phone in your breast, in your gym sports bra. Don't put a phone in your pocket. Don't put a laptop on your lap. Okay. So there's evidence that they're like men who are doing this, that they're shooting blanks. So there's evidence that they're not, the reproduction of people are going down. Like, that's kind of no big surprise to me because of what we're doing to our planet. Like, something's going to like slow down our process. We're overpopulating and we're not taking care of the planet. So it's no surprise to me at all that this is happening, but it's a big deal. Like, I wish I would have looked up the number. I didn't even know I was going to talk about this, but I would have looked up some stuff for you, and maybe I'll bring that to the table next time. But yeah, it's crazy to see how drastic it's changed the ability for people to conceive. And now we have people going and doing, you know, fertility treatments, which is fine, you know, if that's the way you got to do it. But I would highly encourage you to straighten some stuff out first and see if you can do it naturally. Because if you're not having a baby naturally, there's probably a reason why. And it's so vital for you to be in your greatest health and your partner to be in their greatest health when you're conceiving a child. That's just the way it is, okay? And if you don't know how to get yourself there, please reach out, because there's a whole pre-pregnancy program that I put my patients on who are planning to have a baby. Because then in the most important days during pregnancy are like the first 6 to 12 days or 6 to 18 days. You don't even know you're pregnant during that time. So, you know, if you're already preparing for it, you're going to set yourself up and set your baby up for the best outcome possible. And that's the only thing I would ever want for a child. So anyway, that second chakra business. All right. When there's an imbalance in the second chakra, we have addictions to things like wheat and carbohydrates and gluten, even grain-based alcohol. So if you drink those kinds of alcohols, maybe there's second chakra imbalance going on there. Okay. I talked about this before, but chocolate is also an addiction to chocolate. Clearly I have a second imbalance. Oh my God. Other things that you may notice if there's an imbalance in the second is emotionalism. So if you tend to be emotional, I guess I have been emotional lately too. So emotions and chocolate kind of go together, don't they? What do you know? Okay, here we are. All right. You could also, if you tend to get lost in fantasy or TV or gaming or things like that, this could be an imbalance in the second. If you have like insatiable desires, that's like you gotta have it. This could be a second as well. You could also experience on a physical level, you could experience low libido, impotence, frigidity, bladder issues, prostate issues. Obviously, my women don't have prostates, but low back pain could also be an expression of the second chakra, as well as ovary uterus stuff or unbalanced menses, abdominal cramping, unbalanced sex drive. It could go way up, it could go way down. Emotional instability. It's crazy how much stuff can go on when we have an energy center that's out of balance, right? And we just think this is kind of the way we are. It's kind of our personality, but really it might be you're a little bit imbalanced. Okay. All right. So if you're finding you're having feelings of isolation or instability, if you're having like neediness or codependency issues, these can all be second chakra stuff. The other thing that kind of comes up that is so interesting is that an imbalance in the second chakra could relate to a fear of happiness or a fear of pleasure. Now, this is really, really important because so many of us don't allow ourselves to have real pleasure. So many of us don't allow ourselves to have true happiness. It's just a sad situation. I just did a bioimpedance on a patient this morning, and she's lost 6 inches off her hips, 4 inches off her waist, 4 pounds of fat. And her response to me was like, I was like, look, this is what's happened. And she's like, oh, wow, but I should be doing better, huh? And I was like, what? Celebrate that. Like, let yourself have that, right? And we don't. As a just tendency for women, we just don't. We don't celebrate our successes. We don't allow ourselves to feel pleasure. We don't allow ourselves to be happy. And then we find ourselves in sucky situations, like being in turbulent relationships, or having jealousy, or having extreme outbursts, or feeling lusty and then feeling guilty or feeling shameful, and all these things. But in truth, if we can get down to shifting the energetics, then the physical expression can change. But otherwise, you're fighting against it, trying to fix it on the physical plane, and it just doesn't work. All right. You can't change low libido unless you change the energetics and you change the function of your organs. And if you have an energetic center that's out of balance, the second chakra specifically, and your ovaries aren't working well, you've got low back pain, you're not having a regular cycle, like, of course, you're probably having low libido, and wouldn't be any surprise if your partner was matching you with impotence or low libido. Like, that's the way it happens, right? But you guys can do this stuff together. So if you got a partner over there and you're trying to have a baby, hey, do this fun stuff together. This is going to like really change things for you, because when your second comes into balance, you become more trusting, you become more expressive, you become more attuned to your own feelings, you're more creative, you have better intimacy or more freedom in your intimacy. You can be honest about your desires and playful and inspired, have more confidence. You can express love greater. Like, all this stuff is so juicy and yummy. So it's so vital and important to like really own this part of yourself, right? Because you deserve it. I personally, I take a sensual dance class. I'm sure I've talked about that several times. Actually, I have, because I've interviewed my teachers and that sensual dance class right there is, man, that's all about waking my second up. It's so good. And I'm going to tell you what, like, I went the other day and I was like, I don't even want to go. I don't feel like talking to anybody. I don't want to even see anybody. I've had a horrible day. I was crying all day. It was one of those emotional moments, I'm like, I should just call and cancel. And then I know, like, I prepay for these classes for a reason, because I know when I get in these moments, like, canceling is not an option. Okay. But I did have that conversation and I was like, no way, you are going. And it was the best thing for me. I was just out of it. I was not with it. I was not in my creative space. I was not feeling great about myself or about life, and I was struggling and I was feeling challenged, and I'm tired of feeling challenged, and I'm just over it, and I just want to give up, and I was in that space, right? So I show up to this class, and she's like, she's got one of the things that you can do to open your second is hip circles, okay? Now you can do those standing, which is really good, but I would actually encourage you to get on your, like in a cow posture. So you're on your hands and knees, but get onto your elbows. You can stay on your hands if you like. But if you get on your elbows, you're just a little bit closer to the earth, and then just start circling your pelvis in a circle. It can be small, it can be slow, it can be fast. You probably want to slow it down a little bit because your anxiousness will cause you to go too fast. So see if you can just like slow that down. And then if you can, allow that those hip circles to get bigger. So you're going to allow those hip circles to go, the front of your hips to go closer to the floor, and then way back and up towards the sky, and then go the opposite direction. And not just that was just so like yummy. I was like, oh, this is so good. And you know what? By the end of the class, I was like, oh yes, I'm so glad I came. Oh, this is exactly what I needed. Oh my gosh. Everything in my life is exactly what I need. Oh yeah, I just forgot. Okay, I'm good, right? Because I'm back into that place of balance, right? Excuse me. And yeah, so anyway, so this is second chakra stuff. This is passion. This is fertility. This is yumminess. This is juiciness. This is emotions. This is yum. Okay. So we're going to go through a little breath work practice for you. So you'll have a takeaway here that you can play with on your own. So hopefully you played with the first for a few days, and then now we're giving you the second. So what you're going to do is just close your eyes and take a deep breath. And allow yourself to root down towards the earth, although you're probably already there because I know you're practicing this stuff. Allowing your hips to get heavy towards the earth. Allowing your low back to release. And breathing in. Breathing in and focusing on the intimate connection that you have with the creative power of the universe, the creation of life itself. There's deep intimacy there, like beyond all intimacy. Nothing comes before that. Breathe into that space. Notice where you feel it in your body. And see if you can spread it around. Spreading down deep, spreading around deep intimacy with the creation of life itself, with God, with spirit, with the universe, with all things, with the infiniteness of yourself, with the expansiveness of yourself. And bring your attention to that space just below the belly button. And imagine that you have a big orange gem or rhinestone in there. Maybe a carnelian even. And allow it to have a light inside it that begins to get brighter and bigger with every breath. And you can just move that around in a circular fashion in a clockwise direction. And just see if you can maybe expand the girth of that circle very gently as you continue to move that orange rhinestone with that bright orange light inside it around in your belly, lighting up the interior, allowing your breath to flow down into this area of your body. and expand. Nice. Awesome. So very easy. And you can just add that on to what we did on our last show. The first chakra and then the second chakra. Now you're 2 minutes into this little practice. Okay. So it doesn't take much time. Otherwise, you can also do things like certain yoga poses that open the hips. So we're so trapped in our desk chairs and our cars that our hips get locked up. We're not moving them the way we're meant to move them. And when our hips get locked up, it locks up the second chakra. So they're interrelated, the hips and the second chakra. So stretch your hips. This is the essence of that. All right. Hip circles, obviously, are going to be good, as well as things like low lunges and frog pose. I don't know if you know frog pose, but frog pose is a really cool one. You're actually on all fours, like hands and knees. And then you can actually come down to your elbows like we were doing in hip circles. And then just let your knees start to slide out to the side. And you want to keep your knee, the angle of your knee joint at a 90-degree angle. So your feet are in alignment with your knees as you go back. Your feet don't continue touching each other. They open up. And just let your knees open, and the pelvis is coming closer to the floor. Lengthen through the low back when you're doing this, just so you don't crunch yourself there. But that's a really awesome opener for the front of the hips. You can also do wide leg stretches and wide leg forward bends. And those are the kinds of anything that's going to open the hips, maybe the figure 4, that kind of thing. And it just takes a minute or two to do these things, ladies. All right. So just say, I'm just going to try this out and see how it goes. Maybe you'll feel a little happier, right? Ultimately, the way you balance your second chakra is to do what makes you happy. Think about that. Okay. Do what makes you happy. And I think a lot of us get trapped in I have to do this and I have to do that. And we forget about ourselves and what we really want. And we're not checking in, and we're not remembering how important it is to make sure that we're saying yes to the things that make us happy. And maybe the things we're saying yes to once made us happy, but they're not necessarily making us happy now. And so now would be a good time to make a different agreement or make a different choice. It's so important to sit back and go, maybe I'm not happy because why? Why am I not happy? And just journal that out if you're having unhappiness happen anyway. And journaling that out. Why am I not happy? This doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good. I'm so tired of this. This isn't working, blah, blah, blah. And then you get this clarity, and then you can go, okay, well, now I can make change, right? So this is real, true second chakra shifting. Okay. You can also eat orange foods. So oranges, melons, cinnamon is a good herb for the second chakra. I don't even know if cinnamon's considered a herb. That's weird. I just said that, but I don't know. Coconuts and cleansing foods are also good, like broth and teas and water, coconut water. So those are all good for the second chakra. So just think anything that's going to flush, right? If you're going to use essential oils, patchouli, ylang ylang, orange, rose. Those are some top of the lines that I can think of. Other things you can do, you can actually go be near water. Like for me, I'm an ocean girl. I really miss the ocean, and it's really difficult for me because I need to be near water. And I can get down near a creek, but there's really not really a lot of water around here in Colorado. So it's a little hard for me because I'm a mountain girl, but I'm a beach girl. So I still have work to do here. But if you have open water that you can get in or near, go for it and wade around in it, dangle your feet in it. Other things, if you can't get near water, take a bath. That's what I do. I take a lot of baths. So take a bath, put your essential oils in there, put some orange and some ylang ylang and some rose in there. You're going to be really, really opening that second chakra. And then while you're in there, have some considerations. Here's some considerations this is the primary consideration for the second chakra. All right. Okay. And it revolves around pleasure, all right? Because the second is our pleasure center. And we've talked about how we don't allow ourselves to have pleasure. And the sensual dance class that I go to is all about pleasure. Like the rule is come as you are and do whatever you want. And then we get stretched a little bit, right? But it's supposed to feel really, really, really good. And I have found, even for myself, and I feel like I'm tuned in to myself pretty well, but there's always room for growth, right? And so even for myself, I've been like, oh, I'm having a hard time feeling pleasure right now. Like, what will bring me pleasure? And I get stumped a little bit, like, what should I do? What should I do? But the whole idea is to get yourself into a space where you're not thinking about it, you're just doing it. And that will rub off into the rest of your life. So when you're in the bath, like, think about what would bring you pleasure. Would it be bring you pleasure to masturbate? Would it bring you pleasure to do a face mask? Would it bring you pleasure to have a glass of water and, I don't know, some good music on or read a book? Like whatever it's going to bring you pleasure, do it. All right. And then you may want to even like journal about that. What brings me pleasure in my relationships? What brings me pleasure? How can my life be more pleasurable in my relationship? How can my life be more pleasurable in my work? How can my life be more pleasurable when I'm alone? How can my life be more pleasurable in my sex life? Like that's a big one, right? We tend to get into these like ruts and we just do the same thing. And at least a lot of women, I'm not saying everyone, of course. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's cool and all, but where's the juice, right? And so really consider that when you're in the bathtub, because it's a great place to to play around with these things. There's also other considerations that are important to consider, and that's the shame and guilt around pleasure. Okay, so shame and guilt around sexual pleasure, shame and guilt around having your own pleasure of any kind, masturbation, eating foods, doing something fun and good for yourself and not including others, those kinds of things, like really just having pleasure for yourself. It's an important piece to really consider. This is a much deeper work that I do in my other programs, but definitely something to consider. And just working on trust around sex and sensuality with yourself and with your partner, if you have a partner, but certainly with yourself, right? What brings you sensual pleasure when you're alone? So one of the things that we play with in some of my other programs is taking different textures of clothes and putting them on and feeling them, or rubbing different textures over the skin, or bringing different flavors, like blindfolded, partnering up and bringing different flavors and tastes to the lips, or sounds to the ears, and those kinds of things, smells to the nose, right? So all these senses that we have, they don't get exploited. And for you to find sensual pleasure, it's all about exploiting your senses. Okay. All right. So just have fun with that. I'd love to hear what you're doing, like what kind of things you're playing with, and how you're tapping more into your own sensual pleasure. Yeah. All right. I think I'm going to leave it with that today. I hope that was joyful for you, and I hope you're having so much pleasure in your life and in your body and in your beingness, and do whatever it takes to turn your soul on. Thank you for tuning in to Turn Your Soul On Radio. If you're finding yourself living a more inspired life because of this show, help spread the light. Share this episode with every woman you know looking to live their lives a little more on fire. I'd also be grateful if you headed over to iTunes and left a heartfelt review, which really helps the growth of the show. I'd also like to invite you to deepen your connection with our community by joining our private Facebook group, Turn Your Soul On. And if you have any other questions, feel free to shoot us an email at admin@drbrandyvictory.com. Thanks so much for being here today, and I'll talk to you next time. May your soul be turned on.
This podcast is for information purposes only. Dr. Brandy Victory is not a medical doctor, and the views and statements expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Dr. Brandy Victory and the producers, disclaim responsibility from any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.